You're listening to the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast, where we do fast, fun, free daily deep dives into books of the Bible. And right now, we're going through Esther.
Do you remember at the beginning of The Princess Bride when the grandpa character, played by Peter Falk, Columbo, he comes bursting into the room and laying in bed there is his grandson, played by young Fred Savage, and the grandpa character goes over and he gives the kid a present that's all wrapped up, and the kid sets aside his pixelated Atari 80s video game and he rips open the package, and you can tell he's super disappointed to discover that the present he got was a book. And he says, "A book?" And then the grandpa's like, "That's right. When I was your age, television was called books." And then he goes on to explain that this is a special book that his father used to read to him and that he read to the kid's father, and today I'm going to read it to you. And the kid's still unimpressed. It's like, "Has it got any sports in it?" And the grandpa's like, "Are you kidding me? Fencing, fighting, some other stuff. Giants, I think, is in there. True love, that's definitely in there." And the kid's like, yeah, all right, I'll try to stay awake. And Grandpa says, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, thank you for your vote of confidence. It's very inspiring." And the scene is funny and charming and well acted and well written. And it gives us a sense of the dynamic between these two pals for the way that's going to play out for the rest of the movie. And that's great. But the real take home, the really important thing from that scene is that we learn something about the grandpa and what he is there to accomplish. Sure, we just physically saw that book get unwrapped, but Grandpa is there to unwrap this present for the first time that can only be, metaphorically, unwrapped once with his grandkid. Now, you'll notice that Grandpa sees this as a very generational thing. This story means something to us as a family, and it's going to mean something to us far into the future. The kid doesn't understand that he's being handed a baton here, but he is being handed this baton. Well, look, at this point in my life, I am nobody's grandpa, but I do get to hang out with you as a peer, and I kind of view this as an opportunity for you and I to unwrap a story that has been told for generations and to savor it together and to slowly and meticulously and carefully pick over all of the subtleties in it and appreciate them and reflect on them together. The story that I'm talking about, of course, is the book of Esther. That's what this series is going to be on. Esther is the final historical book installment of the Old Testament. It's situated amongst all of the historical books. But despite that, I think there's something a little different going on with this book. You don't even really have to look that closely at it to get a sense that the feel of this is different. The plot beats, the unfolding of the story, the way the characters are presented, it's different than the other historical books. It's not the same thing as, like, say, First and Second Chronicles, where you are getting an ancient world, best foot forward historical chronicle to give you the facts in order with some light interpretation attached to it. No, Esther feels like something that is rooted deeply in history, but that is presented in the style of great storytelling. And we're going to have the opportunity in future conversations to talk about the implications of that compared with the rest of the Bible, and what do you do with this little subgenre of scripture that is Esther. And I think those are going to be very fun conversations because it is so unique in terms of how it reads and where it sits and the effect that it has. So the grandpa in Princess Bride got to give his sales pitch about fencing and fighting and giants and true love and miracles. Miracles was on the list too. And here's my list of things that I think make this awesome. One, I do love the historical era that we are about to jump into as we read the book of Esther. It's not like anything else we see in the Bible. We're headed to ancient Persia, where Persian culture dominated everything. It affected Hebrew culture. It affected storytelling and writing and how you do history and how you do politics. And there was a unique kind of court drama that happened in the Persian capitals of Persepolis and Susa and Babylon and Ecbatana that you don't see happening in the northern kingdom of Israel or in the southern kingdom of Judah, as we've looked at in other parts of the Bible. It's not the same as the court intrigue that we get in Rome when we get to the New Testament or that we get in the court of Herod. This is a truly unique, singular moment. And it's a global, cosmopolitan moment with the whole world for the first time in our journey through the Bible, if you're reading through it chronologically, this is the first time that everybody's there at once from all the corners of planet Earth, all of these cultures mingling together and affecting things. I love that historically we get the most politically powerful character we have yet to meet in the Bible on screen a ton, and that is the king character in the book of Esther. I also love how much extra biblical history we've got about this era from very colorful historians. Our sources on this stuff are biased, and they tell juicy stories that portray their well-liked characters in the most elaborately beautiful of lights, and the characters that the historians despise, oh my, do they emphasize and maybe even embellish the most unflattering, to put it lightly, moments of these characters' lives. And so we get to wade through great ancient literature together. And so thing number one that for me is the big sales pitch on why you should do this entire series with me and why we should unwrap the generational gift that is the story of Esther together is that the setting is absolutely incredible. Reason number two, the story is off the charts, for the ages awesome. All of the adventure and intrigue and love and lust and murder and betrayal and massively high stakes and reversals of fortune and twists and surprises, but also satisfying symmetry. It's all there. This story is painstakingly, intentionally, beautifully crafted in such a way that you're given a gajillion opportunities to read between the lines of the motives of the characters and to speculate about what they're doing here or what they're doing there. The characters are rich and robust, which I suppose is the third reason that I'm super excited about this book and hope that you will do this whole series of conversations with me. The characters are awesome. They're realistic. They're interesting. There's also some hyperbole being involved. I don't think any of that is dishonest on the part of the author. The author assumes that the reader knows exactly what genre of literature this is. And so, for example, that author is going to lean hard into the fatal flaw of the king character, that being that he's easily persuadable despite his massive power and wildly reactionary given his emotional state. All of these characters are big. And one in particular, reason number 4 that I think you should totally go through this entire conversation and unwrap this present with me, is the female lead is stunning. She's fantastic. She's brave, but also terrified of things. She's got flaws and problems. She doesn't just automatically fix everything. She has to overcome things that are in her way. Some of those things are external to her. Some of those things are internal to her, which is the hallmark of a great, relatable character. Another selling point I want to throw out about this book is the important role it plays in the larger picture of the Bible. We just got done going through a whole series. Season 2 of this podcast was through the whole Bible, one book per day until we're done. We just finished that, 2 days ago? And the book of Esther plays a really key role in terms of how all of that unfolds. So I'm excited for that reason as well. Another selling point on this book is that it raises difficult, interesting, provocative theological questions about how the Bible works, about how God does things, about how God's providence works. How does he do things without looking like he's doing things? Who's really in charge here in this story? And I think one of the fascinating features of the book of Esther is that God isn't mentioned in it. It's the only book in the Bible that works that way. And I'm grateful for the format we've got here, where we have time to set it up and think it all through the right way, because there is a lot of setup that needs to go into Esther. The events described in that book come on the heels of the most tumultuous century in the history of the Old Testament. It's the 6th century. You get the fall of the Assyrian Empire. You get the end of the country of Judah. You have the Babylonian exile. You have the rise of the Babylonians. You have the fall of the Babylonians. You have the beginning of the Persian Empire. And then once we get a little bit solidified in that Persian Empire, it's then in this brave, new, very different world from most of what we see in the Old Testament that we meet King Xerxes and that we meet brave Queen Esther. So since we got time to do it the right way, we're going to dive deep to make sure that we are as well positioned as possible to understand Esther's world and to understand what this book is all about. This book is going to be interesting and engaging and exciting and thought-provoking, regardless of who you are or what you believe or where you're at in terms of faith or not faith. And one of the things I love about the conversations we get to have here is that we don't all think the same things. We're not all in the same place in terms of the big questions about life, death, God, eternity, faith, all of that kind of stuff. And this is a book that I think flings the gates wide open in invitation to anybody, no matter who you are, to come in, get together with a weird, unlikely crew of other people who normally don't have a chance to hang out together on the internet and think about something that for 2,500 years has been regarded as a timeless treasure across cultures and across generations and across languages. It just looked like a book that Fred Savage was unwrapping there in The Princess Bride, but the grandpa understood. This story has implications and it means something generationally, and he was excited to pass it along. And likewise, I'm excited to hang out with you and to receive together this timeless story handed down through the ages that has now arrived here at our doorstep in our time on the stage of history. With all of that said, we now come to a decision point. There are two ways to tackle this series. I know some of you are really into the history and culture, deep dive stuff, even going beyond the Bible to go and build that historical context out. I know there are others of you here who, it's not really your favorite part of things, and you'd like to just jump in with the actual look at the actual text of the Bible. If you want to do the history deep dive into Persia and the ancient world with me on our run-up to Esther, simply keep listening. Make sure you catch all the episodes in the coming weeks. If, however, you want to just skip ahead and get right into the text of Esther itself, all you got to do is scroll down and start things up at episode 42, and you'll be able to jump right into the text itself. Either way, I'm so honored that you're here. I'm so excited to do this together. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.